Rangers Podcast. With Andrew Chelney. And Nick Zararis.
Rangers fans, welcome to the best Rangers podcast in town. I am Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis, and we are Liberty Blue. We scream about the Rangers so that you can save your voice. That's how deeply we care about you, and we appreciate that you've joined us for the ride. This is episode 39 live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Full video will be up on our YouTube page, Liberty Blue Podcast, and the audio version will be available wherever you get your podcasts. Search Liberty Blue on your favorite podcast platform, and it should be there. Give the show that shiny and illustrious 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps the show way more than you think it does. At Liberty Blue Pod on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Chelney Andrew, CHELNEY Andrew, alongside Nick Zararis, Nick ZARARIS. Those are our personal Twitter handles to follow as well. Nick, here come the Ranger. Oh no.
Yeah, very, very anticlimactic. Everybody was kind of getting their ring sizes put together. Everybody was planning what they were going to be doing on June 16th, 2023. Everybody kind of just started penciling things in, forecasting things. A lot of the national media very much eat the cheese. I know Steve Dangle spent a solid minute and a half on his podcast last week saying, well, they're going to be bad defensively. Well, they're going to outscore all their problems. Let's relax. Hockey is not played in a vacuum. It is the retort every single person who hates analytics says, well, it's not played on a spreadsheet. Okay, well, we should tell the team that, because right now they put together this team based on names and things they've already done as opposed to what they are going to do. That's not to say there isn't plenty of time for this to get going in the right direction, and I imagine it will. It's no coincidence they're kind of in this weird in-between right now. At the same time, they're having really poor goaltending. And yes, that is partially on the defense, but we know that Igor and to a lesser extent, Halak can cover up those mistakes. That's always been the Rangers' formula for a while now, is how can they win without being great at 5-on-5? Because they're not constructed to be great at 5-on-5. They're not. And that's part of how this team is built on purpose. The Rangers want their high-end talent that includes the goalie to be the difference, and against most teams that will fly. Against the Bruins, you will not just be able to get by on having talent. The talent has to actually play sound, fundamental hockey, which the Rangers haven't done in a few weeks, to be frank with you.
No, they haven't. And the thing, if you take a look at what other teams did at the deadline, like the Bruins and the Hurricanes and the Devils, they got guys that are not only proven NHL players, but also players that have proven that they, one, can play at both ends of the ice, and two, still have a lot left in the tank. One of our concerns with Patrick Kane was this man is 34 years old, bad hip, hasn't defended a play since Vietnam. What can he do in 2023 at both ends of the ice that will benefit the New York Rangers right now? And the answer so far through 2 games is a whole lot of nothing.
It's
two games. I'm not, I'm not trying to jump the gun. The sample size is way too small. Patrick Kane is he ran into Panarin a few times. Like, he doesn't know exactly where he's supposed to be. He's getting the chemistry and all these things going. So it's only been 2 games. The thing about the trade, though, is that, okay, so you get 34-year-old Patrick Kane, you have a lot of these guys, but what can they do for you now? The offense from Patrick Kane, we know. We all know he's won cups, he's gotten the points, he's done all these things. Great. But what is he going to do now? I don't care what he did last year or 10 years ago or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. What can he do now? And right now, the last few weeks, the Rangers have kind of played as if they are the Boston Bruins in that they have this 30-point cushion. No one's catching them, and they could just take 2 months off the season, and then, we'll stroll into the playoffs and we'll be good to go. The Rangers are not secured a playoff spot. Like, they have a little bit of a cushion, sure. They have 7 points right now on the Islanders, 8 on Pittsburgh, and there's 20 games left. The Rangers don't have this 30-point cushion that they could just sit on and just coast to game one of the like a playoffs. They don't have that, but they're playing like it. They're not supporting each other, especially in the neutral zone. They can't get the puck out of their own zone. They can't get that first pass through. They can't get that going. And so over the course of these past few weeks, you've seen this defense fall apart. Lindgren hasn't been playing, and K'Andre Miller has finally started suspension, sure, but given who is out there on the ice, I want to see at least minimal effort from everybody involved. They're not fighting for loose pucks. They're not supporting each other on the forecheck. They're playing discombobulated hockey. I understand they're shorthanded. Not everybody is on the ice right now, and they're going through chemistry issues / changes / whatever you want to call it. I understand all of that, but it doesn't matter if your effort doesn't exist. Like, you still need to support your teammate on a loose puck battle. You still have to, like if your teammate gave up an assignment to cover them for a second while they get back, like just things that pro NHL teams do, good pro teams do, that for the last few weeks now, the Rangers have not done it. And at the very least, it is a little bit concerning.
The Rangers, and I'm trying to think, I think it was Trouba, it might have been Schneider. Maybe 3 minutes into the game on Saturday, sent a pass to no one in particular up the middle, and Ray Ferraro just goes, "That's not going to work today." And yeah, the Rangers love to look for that first home run stretch pass out of their own end from deep in their own zone to somebody in the neutral zone so they can gain the offensive zone with speed. That's one of the Rangers' bread and butter things. They like to gain the zone with speed because of all the high-end talent they have. They look for that cross-seam pass, which is the most dangerous play in hockey. When you can convert it, it results in goals more often than most other types of passes. The problem the Rangers have, they are not great at getting out of their own zone, as you just said. Rob Luker wrote about this today. I've been doing a little bit of digging on this because over the last few weeks, it's kind of been amplified, partly because they've only been playing with 5D and, Harper and Mikkola playing a lot more minutes than you would expect them, where you would like them to play. But the other issue, and I tweeted this on Thursday during the Ottawa game, when Adam Fox is not on the ice, the Rangers do not clear their own zone. They cannot get out of their own end. Trouba and Schneider, and yes, they were shorthanded for the first minute of this sequence, so maybe a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. 3 minutes in their own zone of just lazily dumping the puck into the neutral zone. The Bruins would regroup and regather and come into the zone with speed and continue the pressure. They didn't concede until after they had changed, but because they've been in their own zone for so long, so worn out, your goaltender's worn out, it's the little things. And when you're a team that has this much high-end talent, it's very easy to think you can just fall back on that talent all the time. And that's true against most teams. Against the teams you're going to see in the playoffs, against the good teams you're going to play down the stretch, we were talking about it before. They got Pittsburgh 3 times in 7 days, the week of St. Patrick's Day. That could be your 7-point cushion right there. They got 7 points to the Islanders. I mean, they don't come back till Montreal on Thursday, which, God bless, they needed these 4 days off more than anything to get healthy. You hope Mott is back relatively soon, because even if you get 6D, still don't want to play with only 11 forwards. And we know the NHL is kind of given the Rangers, by the letter of the law, you guys could have chosen to use the $2.75 million you're using on Kane to call up 2 players. So you're not in an emergency situation. But pulling it up here, I forget if it's the first one or the second one. Yeah. So looking at this scatter plot here, when you think about who on the Rangers is good at getting the puck out of their own zone, you would want to be closer to the top right corner of this chart, which is where Adam Fox is, which is where Ryan Lindgren is. Then you come back down towards the middle. K'Andre Miller, still above average. He's making more mistakes because if you're looking at the y-axis, the one that's going up and down, that line is measuring how many times they mess up trying to exit. So K'Andre is messing up more than average. But you get down to where Trouba and Schneider are, where that's 10 failed zone exits per 60 minutes of ice time. You average that out at 5-on-5. That's roughly, both of them are Trouba's usually about 18 minutes of 5-on-5, 17 minutes of 5-on-5, Schneider about 13 minutes of 5-on-5. So you're talking about 3 or 4, but 3 or 4 failed zone entries every single game. that accumulates over time, and it puts a lot more work on them. And there's a reason Trouba at 5-on-5, the Rangers only score 40% of the goals when he's on the ice. It is hard to score when the other team has the puck. We all know this, but everybody has this aversion to just looking at actual statistical evidence as opposed to the anecdotal, well, he stepped up in the neutral zone. Like the play at the start of the game where he laid out, I think it was Hathaway.
Mhm.
Everybody sees that and goes, defensive defenseman. He's not a defensive defenseman.
No, he can't defend.
He's a shoot-first defenseman.
You have to be able to defend if you want to be called a defensive defenseman. My man's can't defend. On the Charlie, like the first goal, the Bruins scored on Saturday. Like part of it was on Hedl for sure for leaving Coyle and just kind of attending to whatever he wanted to attend to. But also, Jacob Trouba is literally in front of the net, and Charlie Coyle is taking a stroll. He's not. It wasn't even like Charlie Coyle just caught a timing and just managed barely to catch the puck and catch the pass and just sneak by Trouba and for the goal. No. Charlie Coyle strolled into.
He got a good 4 strides. He got a good 4 strides.
My man took his time because Jacob Trouba's back was towards him. Like Charlie Coyle just had the red carpet rolled out, and he skated right in front of Shesterkin. As my camera gets out of focus here, there we go. He strolls right in front of Shesterkin, catches the easy pass. Easy goal, Bruins score, and they're off and running. Like Jacob Trouba just stood there and watched the puck. He didn't know the pass was coming. He didn't know Charlie Coyle got all that real estate for free. He didn't know any of that. He stood there, watched the puck, didn't know the pass was coming, didn't do anything except the pass when it was coming, and didn't stop Charlie Coyle from taking that easy shot. Like, at the end of the day, how can you be a defensive defenseman if you can't defend your own net? What are we doing?
So a point on this that I want to make, because I've seen a few people make this, and it's right. Defense in your own zone is not just one guy. When you have lapses like that, that means multiple people messed up. The defender did not pass off Coyle to the right person. Then, because they didn't pass them off correctly, Trouba didn't react in time because he wasn't passed off to correctly. I know they're very different sports, but for all intents and purposes, you want to think about the zones players are responsible for, similar to the way it is in basketball, where if you're playing pickup and someone switches, you got to pick up the guy who switched on to you as opposed to following where the puck went. That's all that is. And Trouba and Miller have been doing this for a year and a half now, because I don't know if anyone else knows this, but that's the most common defensive pair in the NHL at 5-on-5 over the last season and a half, Trouba and Miller. They do not pass players off to each other correctly. They consistently have those breakdowns where somebody's in front of the net by themselves with the puck because they're not communicating with each other. It needs to be a me, or a you. That's the type, when you have consistent breakdowns and the same one over and over again, that tells you it's a communication thing. Because if it were a structural thing, the coach would have changed it, because they are consistently messing it up. And to be fair, the Rangers have gotten pretty good defensive results against this year. They're in the mid-teens in goals against, in chances against, and expected goals against, in the mid-teens over the course of the entire season. They've done a good job of limiting the chances against. In the last month, when all of the compounding situations have come together where you're trading for new guys, you're bringing in guys who aren't as good at defense because you want them to focus on offense, you're down 2 defensemen, you're down one of your better defensive forwards, it feels like everything's kind of snowballing on them right now. So we can be reasonable. We understand the last 2 games are not how they're going to play for the next 20. That's not to say there aren't things to be red flagged, because even when they were playing well, the transition play was not good. Yeah. They were still struggling to break out of their own zone. They were struggling to get through the neutral zone, especially at teams that play higher up in the neutral zone where they have to dump the puck in and go past them to get it. Against the well-structured teams, the Rangers have struggled. And that's not just on Gallant. That went back to David Quinn. That went back to Alain Vigneault. These guys are very rooted in their ways. You are not going to get all of these guys in their late 20s and early 30s, like Kane, like Tarasenko, like Zibanejad, like Kreider, like Panarin, to change how they play hockey at this point in their careers, which is why I think it's a reasonable estimation or reasonable request that maybe we stop focusing on that first home run pass out of the own zone. That's not there. Their wings are not fast enough to run that play through the neutral zone. They need those guys, instead of flying the zone as soon as they have possession, to come back into the own zone, shorter passes. Rob mentioned it in his piece today that was one of the things in 2021 when the Rangers were pretty good defensively, was the short pass out of the neutral zone to quickly get to offense, as opposed to the long home run pass. It's a lot easier to make a short pass than it is to make a long pass. A lot more can go wrong on that long first pass as opposed to a short 10, 15-foot pass.
Well, yeah, and again, like the reason why we bring up that Trouba defensive error, for example, Trouba/Heedle error, for example, is just like, I would rather Jacob Trouba be good defensively. Like, contrary to popular belief, I guess, like, I would much rather be like, hey, Jacob Trouba is having an awesome game, or he's having an awesome week or month or season or whatever. It's much easier for me to be like, hey, like, Jacob Trouba is having a great season. Nothing negative to say. Hallelujah, peaches and daisies, right? Like it's so much easier for us to just do that. But the problem with that is that Jacob Trouba does not allow us to do that because he's been horrific defensively. Like, you have to take your fan cap off for just a second and watch each individual player and how they play. Even if you hate analytics, forget analytics for a second. Just watch the man play. He can, like, it's not just Trouba. Like, for example, just to get off of Trouba for a second, right? Panarin, the last 2 games, he's been awful because all he's done is try to force that cross-ice pass to Kane 75 times, and it's gone through how many? Maybe once? But he keeps doing it.
2 or 3 out of 15.
He keeps trying it, but teams are like, hey, we've seen you do it. We're not going to let that pass go. And Panarin's like, oh, but what about this time? And it's like, it doesn't work. And Panarin, the last 2 games against Ottawa, against Boston, the only thing he's done on the ice is try to force that pass. He hasn't looked at the net with the puck in the offensive zone. He hasn't considered a shot, hasn't considered passing it to anybody else, really. Even if he's not in the offensive zone, when he has the puck, his only objective in his mind for the past 2 games was, where's Kane? Where is he? Let me get the puck to him. Where is he? Where'd he go? Where is he? Where? Like, that's it. No one else matters. And when he's lost the puck multiple times doing that, he's been slow getting back. He hasn't really back-checked well. Like, it goes far beyond Trouba. It's Panarin, it's Kane. There's a whole lot of just kind of nonchalant attitude going on.
The kid line has not been great.
Yeah, the kid line hasn't been all that good. I know Lafreniere was scored those 2 goals against Boston. At least, like, he looked like he was the only one that, like, actually looked like he was trying out there for full stretches for stretches of time. But it's just like the Rangers right now have this nonchalant attitude of, it'll be fine, it doesn't matter. But again, like we talked about, this cushion can disappear in a week. If the Rangers aren't careful, this can all go down. This could all go south very, very quickly. And they're playing like they just don't care, and I don't understand it.
I'm trying to think of the way I would describe this, because, like, it's very clunky. There's a lot of non-attention to detail. It's a lot of, that guy's there, he'll make the play because the puck's kind of in his general area. It's forcing an extra unnecessary pass that's making a play more difficult than it needs to be. It's assuming that just because you're good, you will be able to outplay the other team. And I think that's the undercurrent of a lot of these little attention to detail errors that I've seen a lot of people talking about. I know there's a few people who focus a little bit more on the offensive end of things versus the defensive thing. It's all interconnected. All of this stuff is interconnected. It's great that when the Rangers gain the offensive zone, they've been one of the better teams in the league this year in terms of scoring. They could be a lot better if the defense was better, because they could get from defense to offense faster. I'm going to pull up another one of the charts here. And when you look at this, the exits with possession are the ones where somebody is skating the puck out of the zone, whether it be from a first pass or the person with the puck skating out of their zone. The only two guys above average on the team are Fox and Lindgren. You go below that, you see Trouba and Miller right below average in terms of successful zone exits. And then you go way down there and you get to Schneider, who's well below average, and horizontally is clears per 60, which means the just flailing the puck out of the zone and hoping for the best when it gets to the neutral zone. And then up and down is exits with possession, which is what we were talking about, where the Rangers have control of possession. And it is a statistical fact that when you exit the zone with possession, you are more likely to generate scoring chances. We know this. The data bears it out. Because you are going from defense to offense more successfully, you are going to be on offense more than you're going to be on defense. That leads to more scoring chances. And statistically, the more scoring chances you generate, the more goals you will generate. It's all interconnected. It's not just offense, defense, neutral zone. These are all part of the same thing. And trying to single out one part over the other is missing the point. And a lot of this does come down to what Andrew's talking about effort and commitment. Are you going to make that are you going to take those extra 5 strides to make the right play? Are you going to go give puck support down low so you can break out cleanly? And the last, I would say 2 weeks, about 2 weeks now, they have not been great in any aspect of the game, really. The only reason the Rangers did as well as they did in the month of February is they were first in the league in shooting percentage at 5-on-5. That buoyed because they were 30th in save percentage in the month of February, and that is tied to the sheer volume of goals against. So I wrote it down here. They were 27th in goals against at 5-on-5. They were 23rd in high danger chances against. And right there, that's your story. That's why your goalie had an .890 save percentage at 5-on-5, because you were conceding some of the most dangerous chances in the game. And yes, some of that is you don't want Ben Harpur playing 15 minutes a game. You want Mikkola playing, 13 minutes a game as opposed to 18 minutes a game. I imagine it will get better once they get fully healthy 6D in there. We're assuming Lindgren will be back sooner rather than later, because if not, they would have LTIR'd him and had other guys to call up. Sure. We assume Lindgren will be back either Thursday or Sunday.
I would hope so, because if not, then this defense isn't going to get any better. That's for sure. It's again, like, if you watch the Knicks, for example, and not every hockey fan is a basketball fan, and obviously vice versa, but the Knicks have won 9 in a row, and they are such a fun team to watch. Now, I'm a basketball fan. I also work in basketball media, so I've watched a lot of basketball, but also, like, the Knicks are a very fun team.
Yes.
Why are they a fun team? Because they play they have this togetherness where they will battle for each other. They will fight for that loose ball. They will do everything that they can for their own teammate in order to ensure that the hustle points and the second chance plays go their way. The Rangers over the course of this past couple of weeks here have done none of that. It's kind of been a Jekyll and Hyde situation with both of these New York teams. Is the Knicks right now are doing everything they can to help each other and support each other, and making sure that if someone lost their defensive part, like their defensive whoever they're guarding, that the next player is up and he's rotating and he's making life a living hell for the other player and the other team that they're playing against. The Rangers are doing zero of that. They are coasting some of the time. They're not battling for the loose puck. They assumed that because they got Tarasenko and Kane, that teams will be afraid of them and that they don't have to go 100% in order to win games. The problem with that is, hey, teams are still trying to make playoffs and win games and do
Ottawa was hungry.
Things. Like Ottawa is so hungry. They've won 5 in a row. They are they got Jacob Chychrun. Like, this is a team that can do damage. If you let them in, they can do damage. And right now, the Senators, when on Thursday when they played, they were down 3-2, and then in the third period, Ottawa absolutely dominated. The Rangers didn't look like they wanted to be there. The Ottawa Senators look like a team that need points, that they were desperate for points. They wanted those 2 points. And what did they get? 2 points. The Rangers had the lead in that game. They looked like they were in control. They had so much power play time. Half the game they were on the power play. They didn't really do a whole lot with it. And the Ottawa Senators came in the third period and said, no, we actually need those 2 points. Let me just grab them from you real quick. And they did. And it looked really easy for them. That's the concern right now for the Rangers, is that teams are handily taking points away from them. The Rangers kind of are okay with that, it looks like, on the ice. And that's concerning.
Because Zach, like you were saying, the Rangers were winning that game against Ottawa 3-2. And then that third period came, and Ottawa started taking the puck down low on them, and making the Rangers defenders come to them behind the net. The net front would be vacated, or the puck carrier would just drag somebody. I mean, I remember there was one sequence where Brady Tkachuk and Trouba were battling below the goal line, and Trouba cross-checked him about 6 times, and he didn't knock him off the puck or make Tkachuk lose control of the puck that entire shift, and Ottawa ended up scoring because they outworked him. They kept the cycle going. They kept their feet moving. They put pressure on the Rangers' defense. And again, they're playing 5D. 2 of the 5D aren't well suited to be playing more than 13, 14 minutes a game. Understand that. Speaking to the defensive issue.
The forwards need to help, though. Like, yes, it's not just about who's on the blue line. The forwards are not doing anything to help either. And
they're not coming back hard enough on the back check at all.
They're just...
They get caught 2 down low. That's the thing. They go too aggressive in the offensive zone. They have to go 180, 190 feet to back check, and they're out of the play. And the Rangers are consistently either even or odd man going back into their own zone, and their defensemen are not well suited to breaking up those transition plays. One of the other charts I have is who the other team targets for zone entries. They target Schneider, they target Ben Harper, they target Jacob Trouba. They don't skate at Miller, they don't skate at Fox, because they know those guys are more likely than not going to break the play up in the neutral zone. Whereas if it's the other guys, they'll dump it past them and go right by them because they're faster. That's really what it comes down to. They're faster. And the next one I'm pulling up here speaks to what we were talking about before about defensively. This is the goal rolling save percentage at 5-on-5. This is the lowest it's been all season going into what it was against the Bruins on Saturday. The goaltending for about a month now has been objectively bad. The Rangers goaltending has been bottom 5 in the league for the month of February, and they only were as good as they were in the month of February because they had a really good streak of hot shooting luck. The goaltending is tied to the defense. Yes, we all think Igor should be playing better than this. No one disagrees with that. But there's a limit to how much you can realistically expect a goaltender to do when they are constantly under siege like this. And my assumption is it will get better as the defense gets healthier, as the forwards get more comfortable with each other. Maybe they juggle the lines up front a little bit more to focus more on defense, which is something I want to touch on coming up in the next segment. But right now, the Rangers are built on 3 things. Having it close at 50-50 at 5-on-5, the power play, and the goaltending. Right now, they've got kind of good at 5-on-5 numbers for the season long, not for the last month. Other than that, you're not getting the goaltending, and the power play has been better, but it hasn't been really that consistent. So right now, of the 3 things the Rangers need to go on a deep playoff run, they have maybe 1.5.
You can put Hasek in net. You can put prime Hasek in it for the Rangers right now. And the save percentage could be a little bit better with Hasek in it for sure. But when you give up the amount and the kind of chances the Rangers have given up over the past couple of months especially, is that save percentage going to be so much higher that the Rangers win at least some of those games that they've lost? I don't know if the answer is yes to that, because like you can put Hasek, Brodeur, Waugh, whoever, insert name here in the net, and while Shesterkin for sure and Halak to a certain extent as well, they could have stopped a couple of more shots for sure. No one's arguing that. But you could put any Hall of Fame goaltender in the net for the past month for the Rangers, and the results, I feel like, would be around the same, because the chances have been in droves for the other team. There's nobody,
and they've been dangerous.
and
That's the
they've been,
other part of this.
yeah.
They've been dangerous chances.
It's not as if the Rangers are giving up 80 shots a game, but they're all from outside the slot and just easy shots for the goaltender.
3 of the 4 Bruins goals were from that sweet
Right.
spot, right in between the circles, because the net front coverage was not there.
The Rangers give up a ton of dangerous chances against, and it doesn't matter who you have in net if you keep doing that, because like especially if you have Stanley Cup aspirations. I don't care who you have in net. You can have 3 goalies in there, and at the end of the day, if you're going to give up these these ridiculous, grade A scoring chances for the other team multiple times a game, you're going to lose. It doesn't matter who you have in net. Despite Shesterkin struggling, he should be better. I'm not too worried about him. I feel like by April he will be better than what he is right now. I'm not too worried about him come playoff time. But it's about everybody in front of him. They have to limit these incredible scoring opportunities they give to the other team on a nightly basis. It doesn't matter who's in net. If you keep doing that, eventually the puck's going to go in and you're going to lose.
So transitioning topics here to something I've been tinkering with and trying to find. All of the Rangers lines right now are oriented around offense only, not really giving a shit about what happens defensively. It's the only reason you would play Kane and Panarin together, because those are your worst 2 defensive forwards. The kid line has not been great the last couple weeks defensively, especially, but the offense isn't there anymore. So I assume they're going to give Kane and Panarin probably another 2 or 3 games to try and figure it out. And if it doesn't click, then they'll juggle that. But I think there's a real argument that you need to find a way to either get more offense in there, because Trocheck is the puck retriever, and then the other 2 guys just passing back and forth to each other isn't generating any offense. You need somebody who's going to shoot between them. So whether that means putting Chytil in the middle of them, putting Zibanejad in the middle of them, and hoping that Zibanejad's good defense can kind of cover up some of the mistakes for the other guys. There's a real argument that they need to juggle up the lines. But I imagine that won't happen for at least another game or 2, because Gallant is a troll and likes annoying people. Legitimately, he gets amusement out of annoying the public. He thinks it's funny that we all think he's stupid sometimes. He genuinely thinks it's funny to just do something to be asinine. I get it. Big hockey man, know all. I played with Steve Yzerman. I get it. I really do, Gerard. But at some point, because the example I go to is, as soon as Kane got here, he said, no, he's just going to play with Panarin. They've played together. They'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it. When it comes to anyone else, he's been let's call him not shy about throwing people under the bus for the deficiencies in their game. Whether it be one of the kids, whether it be mostly the kids. When it comes to Gallant, he hasn't been shy about throwing the kids under the bus, especially for perceived defensive inefficiencies. When Patrick Kane is legitimately been the worst defensive forward in the league for the last 2 seasons. You can still have all the points, whatever, that's fine. I get it. Legitimately, the most goals against of any forward with at least 500 minutes of time on ice at 5-on-5. That requires help around him. If you're going to play a guy like that, you need a center and other winger who are going to be able to mask that. They're not going to break up Panarin and Kane yet. So you need a center who's just going to shoot like crazy in between them. And Trocheck doesn't shoot enough. He does not shoot enough to be
No one on the team shoots. That it all goes back. I mean, this is oversimplifying it a little bit, but one of the overarching problems with the Rangers in the offensive zone is that they look for 17 passes as opposed to just shooting the puck. There was a couple of times, even on Saturday against the Bruins, where Zibanejad had a good opportunity to shoot, and he just he passed it as the camera goes out of focus again. Look at that. The Rangers need to shoot the puck, man. It's so unbearable at times, because this team,
especially on the power play. This new power play alignment is an atrocity. I get it, what they're trying to do. Neither Kane or Panarin shoots. Your best shooter is Zibanejad, and he's not in a position to play the one-timer.
Yep.
So what are you doing effectively? You're going to have Kane and Panarin play catch. You're going to have Fox walking the line, Zibanejad clogging space, and Kreider at the net front. Kreider's useless at the net front if no one shoots. Mm-hmm. You cannot deflect the puck in if the puck does not go in towards the net. they need to reconfigure these power plays. It's good that the second power play is actually getting some time, and the idea of Tarasenko with Hedel and Lafreniere is interesting to me. I think there's a world in which they could do that at 5-on-5, and it would be interesting. But right now, it's great that they've got 4 days off. They desperately need these days off to get healthy, to actually get a practice in, because I know a lot of the people who've been like, hey, you're jumping on them too quick, it's only been 2 games, have been quick to point out the fact that they haven't had practice. They were not playing great at 5-on-5. They weren't playing great defensively before Kane got here. It's not just like the last 2 games that the defense has been an issue. It's been a solid month of that now, that the defense is hanging out the goaltending to dry, and their only remedy to winning is to outscore the other team, which, because, as you said, they have a limited skill set. They have a lot of redundancy in their skill sets, where they have a lot of guys who love to play make, but they only have like 2 or 3 guys who actually like to shoot when they have the puck. And one of those guys is a defenseman who shoots 1.8%. So he should probably stop shooting, especially on the power play. That shorthanded goal they gave up against the Bruins, I get it because Miller's not here, so you kind of have to play Trouba as the second power play quarterback. But they need to tell him he's not allowed to shoot anymore. The amount of odd man rushes that go the other way, because he fires a shot directly into the defender's shins and it ricochets backwards, is ridiculous.
Yep.
And this speaks to details and attention. If it really bothered the coaching staff that much, they would remedy these things by coaching it out of them. That's what coaches are supposed to do. It's great everybody likes Gallant. It's great everybody likes playing for him. This isn't a social club. You have a job to do here. You're trying to win. And we're going to see 20 games, plenty of time to figure out the lines. We know the defensive pairs aren't changing. We know that, unfortunately.
No.
Maybe they change the lines. You get a little bit more responsibly defensively, even if that means conceding a little bit of offense. But right now, this level of team defense, and when we say team defense, that means the forwards too, is not going to work at all. It's just not going to work against anyone with a modicum of actually good defense. So there are a lot of things to clean up, a lot of things to focus on. Desperately needed these days off, though.
I am not at practice. I'm not in the video room.
What do they do at practice?
I don't know what they do at practice. I mean, we can ask Molly or Larry, I guess. But for the video coordinators for the Rangers, if we as outsiders in the organization, right? Obviously, we aren't part of the organization. Like, we're not at practice. We don't know what actually goes on with in the video room, or in these coaching moments or whatever. Like, we don't know. But if we as outsiders have figured out that these issues exist and that have been going on for not only the past like 2 games or 2 weeks, for a while, what are these things being pointed out in the video room too? And if they are, why hasn't there been any fix? And 2, if they aren't being pointed out, that's way worse. Like, if we can see these issues, then why can't you? So that's kind of my question for the practice for this team is like, hey, I'm sure the video room sees that the defense is bad, that X player and Y player, and you can fill in the blanks of who it is. I won't have to say his name for the millionth time. Are giving up these high danger chances in front of the net, and that they keep doing it every game for eternity. Like, this is part of their play style. I'm sure the video room by now has isolated these plays and have shown them to the players. So the fact that it hasn't been fixed is an issue for everybody involved, because you would think that, like, hey, I don't know who the video coordinator, like, their names are for the Rangers, but you would think that the video coordinators would show Mr. Gallant that, hey, player X continuously just doesn't play defense, and Gallant's like, oh, it's fine, who cares, it's fine. Like, that can only be like, that's kind of like the only thing that I can think of at this point. Because this is not game 1. This is not game 2 of the regular season. These issues have been going on for months and months and months, dating back to last year. Like, a lot of these issues have carried over. They haven't been fixed. At this point, Yeah, like what's going on? I want to know, just out of pure curiosity. I'm sure the video guys have shown the team this countless times, and it hasn't been fixed. Why?
Yeah, they need a little bit more of like an actual teacher. You know what it reminds me of when you have a player's coach? You know how someone's parent would always come on the field trip to be the chaperone, but they didn't really have any authority because they weren't the teacher? That is what Gerard Gallant is, because he doesn't actually like correct anything. He doesn't, oh, you messed up. This is what you should have done instead, because it's been the same mistakes over and over again. And these are mental ones. These are preparation ones. These are detailed ones. When you watch the Bruins, every single time a player looks up with the puck on their stick, they know where the puck needs to go. When a Rangers player looks up with the puck on their stick, maybe. No. There is not a clear and defined structure that these guys play within. And a lot of it, again, I've said this more than once, is rooted in the falling back on our guys are better than their guys. We'll be able to make plays outside of structure. It's really hard to consistently make plays outside of structure. And that's why we've seen them run into difficulties against teams with certain types of structure. Why have the Rangers never been able to beat the Islanders with any real consistency? Because the Islanders play a rigid structure where you cannot get that cross-team pass-through. Why have they struggled against the Bruins? The Bruins play a very tight up-the-middle structure where you cannot get that pass-through. Against the Lightning, when those cross-team passes dried up, they were not able to sustain a forecheck. They were not able to cycle high to low and generate the kind of ugly goals that you need to go on long playoff runs and to win against good teams. And it's all connected. All of these little details need to be focused on, because this is how you develop. Everybody's saying, well, give it time. If they keep playing shitty, that doesn't mean anything. It's great they have experience playing together now. If it's not good experience, what does it matter?
Why do we call John Cooper a really good coach, and we don't say the same thing about Gerard Gallant? One of the biggest examples of that, besides the cup, like I'm not talking about his resume and all these things. Like I'm not talking about that specifically. Like as my camera, like for some reason just loves to go out of is loving the out of focus today. Like if you go back to the conference finals last season, the Rangers won the first two games, and John Cooper turned around, and I'm sure he had a long meeting with his video coaches, and he went through all the tape and all this, and he adjusted his game plan. The Lightning had one kind of game plan coming into the series. The first two games, it did not work for them. So John Cooper said, okay, my papers say XYZ, but for game 3, we're going to do XYZ differently, and here's how. And that worked. So John Cooper said, okay, let's continue to make these tweaks, and we'll adjust as needed. And his team had a clear understanding of how to counter the Rangers offensively and defensively, and the Tampa Bay Lightning won 4 games in a row en route to another Cup final appearance. That is the difference. If the roles are reversed and the Lightning won the first 2 games of the season, would the Rain? I don't have the confidence in Gerard Gallant to make those tweaks as I would with John Cooper. John Cooper recognizes mistakes within his own system and adjusts depending on the team that he's playing against. Gerard Gallant doesn't really do that. Like they have that one system of let's get those ridiculously long passes. We're going to force them. We're going to do what we can. Like I know Gerard Gallant, and I don't want to bag on him too hard because Rangers have gotten to this point and all these things. But like at the end of the day, when the Rangers show up to a game and look like they don't want to be there, some of that's on the personnel for sure, but that's also on the coaching staff. You can't game after game
is on the coaching staff.
Game after game over these last few weeks, the Rangers have looked like they don't want to be there. Like they are kind of there physically, but not mentally, like not in spirit. They're just kind of, like they're not playing a cohesive game. And part of that is the blame has to be on the coaching staff. Like the Boston Bruins are breaking records and they have this massive cushion and all these things, and yet they come in every single night looking to dominate their opponent regardless. The Rangers not only do they not have that cushion? But they're playing as if it's fine. It's all going to be fine. That's not the case, and some of that is on the coaching staff.
All right, I'm going to pull it up here as we're pulling up towards the end of the show today. These are the standings as they are right now. Yes, there are games tonight, but as we're recording this, these are updated and accurate. You look at the way things are shaking out. You know you got Boston locked in. Toronto and Tampa know they're playing each other. You got the Devils and Carolina, where the Devils might leapfrog Carolina, or they might go back and forth. But the Rangers they're 9 back now. It's going to be pretty hard for them to make up that gap. It's doable, but not likely. Then you go down into the wild card tier where it gets kind of interesting. The Penguins and the Islanders over the last few weeks have kind of climbed out of that mess that you see below in the Hunt graphic. Because a couple of weeks ago, we kind of all thought the Penguins were dead in the water because their goaltending was so bad, and it didn't look like there would be any reinforcements on the horizon. The Islanders, without Pajot, without Barzal, have played their best stretch of hockey all season, which kind of came out of nowhere. But you look at it, Ottawa, Buffalo, even Florida and Washington, they're all still in the mix here. And it's going to take a decent stretch here. The Rangers are going to have to go something in the neighborhood of 13-7 to be comfortable down the stretch here. And yeah, they've got a few easy games. They've also got to play Pittsburgh 3 times. They've got Washington one more time. It's not going to be as academic as everyone thinks. The Rangers will make the playoffs, but we're not just going to be sitting and counting down the days and being like, okay, are we playing Carolina or the Devils? You really don't want to be one of those wild card teams. You really don't want to be one of those wild card teams if you can help it. And there's plenty of time now to make up these mistakes, to fix problems that are internal, and be ready to not end up being in the spot the Islanders or the Penguins are in right now. Because if you go into that first round series against the Bruins, you're not going to feel good about that.
No.
No, and granted, 8 points is a lot of room between where the Rangers are and where the Islanders are. Excuse me, where the Penguins are.
It's 4 games.
It's 4 games.
It's 4
games. 20 to go.
There's a lot of time left, a lot of hockey to be played. Are we worried that the Rangers are going to fall to the wild card spot? I kind of don't think that they will, but at the same time, there's enough time left for them to do it if they continue to play this nonchalant style of hockey. If they show up to their next game and realize, hey, we're kind of a hockey team, we should be playing a professional style of play here, then they'll be fine. But over these past few weeks or so, they've looked like their thought process is just, we're just going to stroll into the playoffs and we'll figure it out when we get there. That's not how NHL hockey is done. Like, I don't know if you know this, Nick, but like, you kind of have to be a team.
There's a lot of work.
There's a lot of work before a game, during a game also, like just figuring out, just getting the kinks out of your game and playing the smoothest brand of hockey that your team can. It's a lot easier to go into a playoff series when you understand your teammates better and are playing cohesively than whatever they've shown over the past few weeks, and have with the thought process of, it's fine, we'll figure it out when we get there. That's not I feel that's not an appropriate mindset. You have to figure it out now, so that when you get to the playoffs, you are prepared. You
want to
understand,
hit the ground running in the playoffs. You want to be playing your best hockey going into the playoffs.
Right. You understand the minutia of you, your teammates, and who you're playing against come playoff time. Because clearly over these past few weeks, Rangers have shown that they are not up to date with the minutia of how their team plays hockey. There's a lot of broken plays, forcing of passes, not a whole lot of defensive structure. This is a team that looks like they're still figuring out. My guy, it's March. Playoffs start next month. If you don't figure it out now, how are you going to figure out come playoffs?
That'll do it for this week's episode of the Liberty Blue Podcast. Make sure you are subscribed on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, throw us a 5-star review. Those are very helpful. Follow along on social at Liberty Blue Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Live every Monday, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. The YouTube is at Liberty Blue Podcast. The personals, follow Andrews, Chelney Andrew, Chelney Andrew. Mine is Nick Zararis, Nick Zararis. Everybody have a good week. We will see you next week. Rangers got a few between now and then. We'll see you guys then.